Hello, everybody, and welcome to Untethered.tv. I'm your host and founder, Rob Woodbridge. This is the place you come to get the lessons, deep dives into lessons on how to bring mobile into your business, how to actually extend your business through mobile, how to do this in a way that isn't going to anger your customers or isn't going to turn them off. And if you've tried mobile before, it's a way for you to come back into mobile. This is not a one-time shot. This is a long process, a slow process, but it can be very valuable. And here to talk about that stuff a little bit more, even about location-based marketing, how-tos, what to do, some good examples, what are some specific tactics that you can use. I'm very excited about this, as I always am. I have Shuli Lowy, who is the marketing director at Ping Mobile, to come in and talk about this. Shuli, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. Much appreciated.
My pleasure, Rob, and thanks so much for having me on the show. I think it's a wonderful show, and to all of you that are tuning in, welcome. Just a little bit about Ping Mobile, which is where the company I'm working with. Ping Mobile is one of the longest standing mobile marketing firms. They've been around for, I'd say at least 12 years or so. So when they first started, it was just at the very beginning of mobile, when it was just purely SMS. And the company has evolved as one of the premier mobile marketing firms, along with the times. So currently, Ping Mobile is a full-service mobile marketing agency, and they work in all the different mobile marketing channels. They've had quite a few reputable clients, including, just an infinite number of big folks. Jaguar, Time Warner Cable, AT&T. Universal Studios, Warner Brothers. I could just go on and on. But most notably, they've recently been signed on with IBM as an IBM partner. And they're just very active in the mobile marketing sphere. I think one of the valuable things that we'll be able to bring to the table is that since we're a full-service mobile marketing agency, we'll be able to discuss today how different mobile technologies relate to each other, which ones are better to use at which times. And additionally, since we work with both big companies and small companies and agencies, we can discuss which ones are most suitable, which technologies, which strategies are most suitable for different structures, different sizes of companies. In terms of me personally, my name is Shuli. I've been working in the mobile marketing industry for quite a few years. I work on a day-to-day basis advising Fortune 1000 companies on their mobile marketing efforts. I structure and launch campaigns on their behalf. I have also been, I've tried at least to be pretty proactive in the mobile marketing industry as Rob. Just to educate folks about how to do mobile, what to do in mobile. I was a featured speaker this year at the GSMI Mobile Marketing Summit, and just in general, I try to pass on the good advice.
And there's so much.
That's the sum up.
There's so much of this going on out there. I mean, this is a new industry, isn't it? Really, mobile marketing. I'd say any industry that's been around for less than 10 years is a new industry, and
right.
There's so many lessons that people have been learning, so like the hard way, right, Shuli, in these 10 years,
yeah.
Because it's the formative years, and those are always the most painful. Is that a good way to describe what's going on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. These past couple of years and the next few years as well are going to be extremely formative years, and people have been learning from their mistakes, and that can be in multiple different ways. Some people have tried out mobile and they've done it wrong, and they've just had a bad experience and they just escape it, not realizing that the way things were structured were just off. Some people have tried to engage in mobile, and they haven't followed the legal protocols of properly opting people in, etc. And they've received ginormous fines or just awful backlash from consumers. And so those people have run away as well. But for the folks that have done it properly, it's been a really powerful experience. And consumers have been, it's been phenomenal at driving consumers to engage take action, and just become closer with the brand. But it is definitely still a young industry, and that's why it's important for those getting involved within mobile marketing, not to just jump right into it. Speak to a professional. This isn't just something you can just do in your home garage. You want to make sure you're doing it right. Definitely when you're first starting off, it's important to speak to professionals.
What are some of we've seen it. Path is the biggest one that we've heard this, the app Path, they got fined $800,000 for sharing, maybe not being so upfront about how they share their data and how they distribute their data and how they collect data. And that's a huge fine to pay for anybody, let alone a small startup.
Yeah.
But obviously this is, there's a lot of testing that's going on. And I think that what's happening here is you've got a young entrepreneurial group, right, that are like 20, 22, 24 in that range, that don't have any context to what they're doing, and they're reinventing business as they go, and forging ahead without really thinking about the pitfalls that their forefathers have laid in front of them. So things like privacy, they'd rather ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. Is that? I think that's what's happening here when it comes to these things, and it's innovative, but it's also, for those people who are conscious of their privacy, it's very frightening, I'd say, as well.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, there are a couple of very notable cases that have come up recently. Papa John's was fined like a fortune. I think Jiffy Lube as well. These were just huge class action lawsuits. The fines have been pretty severe. They've been going up to about $500 per wrongfully sent text message, which is just huge, which is awful, especially when you compare it with the price of sending the text message or getting somebody to opt in. It's just awful. But the truth is, though, a lot of times these companies are killing it for all of us. If you send information to users that they don't want to hear, if you spam them with text messages, you're taking a mobile marketing channel, which has been proven to be so powerful, which consumers enjoy to interact with, to interact with brands, and you're turning it into this spam channel. And what that does is it just turns users off. And so there are many brands which can engage in powerful interactions with consumers, but they just see, when they hear spam, when they hear text message marketing or getting text message alerts from a brand, they just automatically associate it with those annoying text messages to refinance your house or get cash, or all those spam messages that we've gotten over the years that have just scarred us. And that's really not what it is. So I think the market is sort of breaking out of that sort of notion that we had from all those awful messages we used to receive. But the fines have been really severe. So for brands starting to engage in SMS, it's important to know what you're doing, do it right, speak to someone who's done it. But it's not just an aspect of the fines. It's an aspect of you're taking something that can be such a powerful marketing tool and just killing it. And the other aspect is, and this is something that I try to emphasize over and over again, is that if people don't want to hear from you, you don't do anybody a favor by reaching out to them. If I don't want to hear from your brand on my phone, then if you reach out to me, that's just going to be a negative brand experience. I'm not going to like you more because of that. If anything, I will dislike you because of that. So it's important to just understand the opt-in process, understand the necessary legal verbiage that needs to be in every text message, and just to follow protocol. And the basic idea also is just let people know what they're signing up for. And that's particularly a poignant topic in today's discussion, Rob, about location-based services. And I'm sure that's something we'll get to over the course of the discussion.
It's so, you've hit on it. That's so well, is that, and we'll jump into this in a second around location. But just when you start to talk about the fact that it's so well put. Look, if I don't want to hear from you, and you reach out and you send me a text message, you're doing irreparable damage to your brand because I didn't sign up, or I don't want to hear from you, or I'm not interested in it. And I think that a lot of people a lot of companies don't really understand that nuance, that touch point with a consumer can be so powerful in two directions. It can be so powerful to actually help and benefit your business or create a deeper relationship with that customer, or it can do a serious amount of damage between you and that business and that customer if they don't want to hear from you. So it's so impactful. But you're right. There are certain keys and tactics and ways to be able to manage this and do it properly that tend to go on the deeper relationship rather than creating a crevice between the two of you. So this is what we're going to talk about, and it's specifically around location, because location is, it's killer. Location is context. Location is everything that you want it to be, but it can be abuse or it can be effective. And I think that that's really what I want to hone in on here with you, Shuli. So
sure.
Maybe give us around some context is that, how I think it's very important, and I think that most of the people that I talk to think it's very important, but why do you think that location is so important? Is it so important?
So I'm going to start off by saying this. Location is very important to some brands, and not so important to some brands, to other brands. And to certain brands, it's important on a more general level. Okay, so let's say like a city level. In some brands, it's important for them to know exactly where the person is. So it really, really depends on the brand. I'm trying to think of some examples. If I have a fast food restaurant, right, then it might be more important for me to know that you're very close by. If I have a shopping mall, or if I have a fast food chain that's on every couple of blocks, it might not be as important for me to know exactly what block you're on. Just that you're in the neighborhood. If I have, there are so many different applications of a location. I think one of the most powerful applications of location targeting is being able to align your target audience with their location. So this can be really powerful if you're trying to reach a certain target demographic that's centered within a specific location. So, for example, if I'm trying to reach, a college-age student, all right? So let's say young men and women in their early 20s, all right? So being able to target ads by a certain location can be really powerful in that instance, right? Because I can target ads specifically on college campuses, and that ensures that I'm reaching the target audience. Suppose I'm trying to reach a Hispanic market, right? So I can target ads within Hispanic neighborhoods, or Asian American neighborhoods, etc. It goes on and on and on. So it really depends for what brand, for what they're trying to do, and for what the campaign is. Location is something that can at certain times be a very powerful tool. It is often more complicated to execute, more costly, etc., depending on how fine the targeting is. And so really it's brand by brand, campaign by campaign. Some brands will be like, will come to me and say, let's do location-based targeting. And I'll be like, there's no need. You don't need it for this campaign. And some brands will come to us with that campaign and I'll be like, what location-based would really, really help you reach the right people in this instance.
Is there, Shuli, is there an awareness now that among some of these big brands that do they just come to you with an idea like that? Like, I need to do a location-based marketing initiative, or do they come to you with an idea and then location is applied to it? Like, are they leading with the technology, the whiz bang, or are they leading with the idea and then the technology, like location fits into that? Is there a shift there? Are you seeing anything like that?
Yeah. So yes, they definitely most brands that have some sort of concept or grasp of what's going on within the mobile marketing industry will come to us with location-based requests. But there are different sub-levels within location-based targeting, and what what we don't see is, we need this type of location-based targeting. We need to catch these people. Yeah. We're trying to get this audience, so let's target it there. Sort of just the last step of connecting the dots. There are different levels. Like I said, there are different levels of location-based targeting. There's targeting a state, there's targeting a city, and then there's what we call hyperlocal targeting, which is the most fine-tuned mobile targeting. And that's it's pretty much targeting people as close to as block by block. So that we don't see as often. People coming to us, telling us we need this specific form of location-based targeting. And what I'd say we've generally found within not just location-based targeting, but mobile marketing in general, is that people have some sort of concept of it, some sort of idea, but they also know that they don't fully get it. And so they'll come to us with we think we want to do this, but do we really? Is this the right way to do it? What do you suggest? Can you explain it? Can you clarify? Etc. I just want to discuss, Rob, I guess, since we're on the topic of location-based targeting, there are a couple of different channels, a couple of different ways to target people by location. I think it would be helpful if we just did a quick run through those. So there are three basic ways offhand that you can target people on mobile by location. So the first one is SMS, and that's being able to, you don't need a smartphone for this. If somebody is in an opt-in SMS list, you can look up their location using it, linking through to carriers and get a sense for where that person is. That is on a strict opt-in basis only. And while many brands have an easy time or a fairly, reasonable time getting users to opt in for text messages, it's not as simple to get people to opt in to track their location. So we'll get back to that in a minute. The second way to do it is using mobile applications, using push notifications on mobile applications. Sorry. So that would be if my company, for example, has an application on your phone, Rob, okay? And so when you come next to my store, the phone will sense it and send you a push notification. So that'll be location-based mobile marketing using the app as the launcher. That again, it requires the user to download the app, obviously. Which is, I guess, a whole nother story in itself. Which businesses should have applications, which ones shouldn't. Does it really pay off? You have to build it on so many different platforms. That's a whole nother discussion. And then the third form is in mobile ads. And this is a little bit interesting. It's I guess it's the one form where you really can just target new customers who aren't already within your mobile list or within your application download list, and you can get a sense for their location. And so what targeting ads through location-based marketing, basically what it does is you'll place your ads on mobile phones so that it's similar. I'm sure you've come across it, but it's sure you're familiar with it, but they're similar to online ads. They're clickable, banner ads or full phone page ads, and they'll just come on your phone. And a lot of those can sense your location as well. Not all of them. It'll mostly be on apps and sites that you give permission to sense your location. So, and many times you might not realize how often you do that. If you have a weather app, right? You want it to see your location so it can tell you the local weather. If you're using a navigation app, right? So you'll allow that to see your location as well. Flickster. I'm trying to think of my own apps. I want it to tell me the local movies, the local movie theater. So I'll let them see my location. So there are many apps, many websites that you give permission to look at, to see your specific location. And so ad networks can tap into that. And when they're serving ads, they'll be able to sense your location. Now, it's still on the whole pretty much blind. So it's not as frightening as, I guess, the other forms where companies can literally track where you are 24/7.
Yikes. Yes.
But it's kind of just a general thing. It's company X wants to serve ads within these 3 blocks. So they'll serve it to whichever phones come on those 3 blocks. Do they know who is holding that phone? What your identity is, what your gender is, etc. Not really. There are ways that they kind of get a hunch. If you're on like a more male geared app or a more female geared app, they'll get a better sense for that, and you'll target ads appropriately, right? But on the whole, it's still pretty much blind. So those are the 3 main forms of targeting, of location-based marketing, through mobile. There's the SMS, the apps, and the ads.
And I would almost say that we have everyone who carries a smartphone that has an interaction with this has at one point been served a location-based ad through one of their apps, because most of the time these apps are monetized through either in-app purchases or through advertising if they're popular enough. So think about that.
Exactly.
Most of the people that are carrying these smartphones have been fed a location-based or targeted ad.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the majority of apps that people download are free, right? And so those apps make their revenue, like you said, either by in-app purchases, which a lot of them don't even have, or by serving ads. And yes, applications which you give permission to look up or sense your location, they will serve you location-based ads. And they'll do that because those are sold at a premium. They're much more valuable.
So what are the companies that are out there that are doing this right, that have not ruined relationships, that have not harmed their brand, that have actually seen success from doing this? Because most advertising is either ignored, especially mobile advertising. It's not fat finger friendly. I oftentimes click on a banner ad by accident, simply because I'm trying to click on a link that they strategically place right above the banner ad, right, to get the click through. So there's nefarious activities going through, and I'm not saying that it's all nefarious, but what are some of the companies that have actually done this and done it on purpose and done well?
Okay. So there actually are quite a few companies that have been doing it well. I am a little bit biased because I work with some of these companies. I run some of the campaigns, so I'm going to discuss some of those.
Sure. Please.
In large part because I'm familiar with it, but also because I'm biased. Definitely with so I'll discuss some of the ones that we've run and some just other ones basically that are running around in the industry. So I'd say of the 3, the one where we've seen most success is hyperlocal banner ads. In terms of location-based marketing. That's the one that has pretty much been easiest to launch, where we've seen the most response, etc. So companies that are doing it, another add-on that you can sort of place to hyperlocal advertising is search-based advertising. And that's important when you're dealing with brands that have a sort of specific product or are trying to reach a little bit of a more niche audience. So that'll work similar to Google AdWords, where, if I'm searching for something on my phone that I want nearby, people, ad networks will sense that and will serve me an ad, to a brand that's nearby. So one campaign that we have seen, we've been working with them for a couple years already, and we've seen just phenomenal success rate, is we work for the Wyndham Hotels and, their sub-branch, Days Inn Hotels. And what we've done is we've launched a national campaign where if people search for, local hotels and they're near a Days Inn hotel, we'll sort of, put an ad right there. And that's great because you're not just leveraging the person's location, but they're searching for your specific product. We also have run a campaign, a similar search-based campaign for Amco. They change car batteries. So that's a very, very specific product. Not everybody needs battery changes on their car, but when they do, they need it, and they need one that's nearby. So if somebody's looking for it on their phone and they're very close to your store, and you place an ad right there when they're looking for it, that is an extremely targeted and a very, very powerful ad. But again, not all campaigns are search-based. Another campaign that we've run is for Universal Pictures, and they were releasing. This was pretty recent, actually. They were releasing a college. It was like a comedy, like an adult comedy. So it was, their main target audience was about college-age students. The age range went a little bit higher. That was kind of their more preferable target audience because, college-age students are avid social media users. So there we were able to target ads on college campuses across the country. And so what you're doing in that sense is you're leveraging your locational targeting to reach a specific demographic. Another campaign I'm working on right now is targeting ads at Asian Americans. And so we're targeting those ads within specific Asian American neighborhoods. There are certain neighborhoods where you drive down where all the signs and all the stores have, Asian writing all over. And I go down those streets. I don't know where to get a haircut because I can't read the signs. But if you're trying to reach a certain demographic, that can be very powerful. And the key is being able to align your target audience with their location. Applications is something that many brands do as well. Sending push notifications through applications. And that's used usually for brands with physical locations. Same goes for the SMS. Brands with physical locations. And what they're trying to do is when people come nearby, they want to drive them into the store. So I know you're at the mall. I know you're very close to my store, but you have many choices of different stores to go into. Or I know you're in the food court, but you can choose to eat at McDonald's or Burger King or Domino's or, 5 different other restaurants. So let me give you one last little, clincher, one last little pull, I don't know. I'll give you a free code. Just come eat by us instead of them. And that's extremely powerful too. The challenge with that is applications is something which, I personally recommend for very few brands. Unless you're a really, really big company, applications are a pain. They're extremely expensive to develop, to maintain, to properly engage users with, etc. Over a quarter, Localytics did a study, I believe it was about a year or two ago. But what they basically found was that over a quarter of downloaded apps are open once and then never, ever again. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And those are the apps that are downloaded. So many apps aren't even downloaded in the first place. So it's apps can be wonderful. They can be a wonderful marketing experience, a highly interactive way to engage your consumers. But they're definitely not something I would recommend for small businesses on the whole, unless you have a very important use for them.
There are much more affordable ways, and you've just been talking about that. There are much more affordable ways to reach your demographic, your target customer, in a way that suits them better than redirecting them to an app store to download an app to give them the same experience, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And, we see this all the time, is that everybody ran to the apps first, and I think now they're quickly realizing, people have used location-based marketing. So even in-app ads or search-based ads to actually go out and test whether a product will work in a specific demographic or location. And I think those are really unique ways to do it. This is kind of beta testing a product prior to actually launching a product, just based on location-based ads. And I think that when you can start to get into this space, that there's an affordable way to do this that actually drives tangible results. And that's what, I'm with you.
Absolutely. With the SMS, I just want to touch on that for a second because there is a more affordable way to do it, which I'll discuss in a minute.
Sure.
But what we discussed in terms of the SMS marketing, where companies can send not push notifications. They can get a sense if they can look up a user's location, see if they're nearby, and send them a text message to drive them into the store. And that's something that's been doing by White Castle, which is, what the two of us initially spoke about. White Castle, which is a food chain. It's being done by North Face, by American Eagle, and it is a wonderful way to drive people in. The main challenge with that is it's hard. It has to be permission based. It's not easy. In our experience, it's something we do. In our experience, we haven't had an easy time to get people to give permission to brands to look up their location. And it makes sense. I'll give brands permission to look up my location if it makes sense, right? So my weather application, it makes sense. They need to know where I am to tell me I'm back and forth between LA and New York, all right? So they need to know where I am to tell me whether it's going to be sunny or snow.
Yeah.
It's understandable. But the local fast food chain, do I really want them being able to track where I am all the time? Yeah. And this isn't just being able to know like a basic handle of where you're at. Hyperlocal tracking, they can get really close. They pretty much know what block you're at all times of the day.
Yes.
Do I really want them knowing that? People aren't as quick to allow it. And it's understandable. So what I generally recommend for companies that are building an SMS database is to build it in a way that's pre-segmented. So in other words, instead of trying to build this big mobile database and then asking your users, can I look up your location? A certain amount will let you, but a certain amount won't. What you want to do is when you're building it, build it in a way where you're building different mini databases for different locations. So text in Ottawa to join our Ottawa fan club. Text in LA to join our LA fan club. You get the sense. Text in, you can split it up by neighborhoods, right? Or you can split it up by whatever locational aspect is most important to you. But that's usually a much more effective way, to be able to get a sense for your user's location without having to ask them for permission for it. It's also cheaper.
But I really like that idea because when you self-identify like that, it's not as painful as handing over the reins to my every whereabouts. So if I'm in this neighborhood, like my neighborhood here is could be the Glebe area, whatever it is, and I say that listen, if I sign up for this, any message that's relevant to that neighborhood will get pushed, and any information that isn't won't. Right?
Right. Exactly. Now, is it as powerful of targeting? No, not really. Like, for example, I told you, I personally travel a lot. So I might be getting text messages from the LA branch when I'm in New York, right? So it's not a foolproof, but it's definitely a way to get a sense for your user's location without asking them for permission to do something which many users don't feel comfortable doing. Right. For those that do, for the ones that you can get to agree to do it, it's great. It's wonderful. But for the many others that don't, it's a great alternative.
What other tactics would you prescribe for people who are getting into this space? Because that's a really unique one. I love that. Instead of asking for permission to track your whereabouts, just ask them to sign up for a location-specific list or an SMS list. So what other tactics do you like? I love it. Don't give away like the farm.
No, not at all. I mean, it's all about, if there's any advice I can give, I'm always happy to pass it on. I mean, my goal is to improve this space.
Yes, mine too. Yes.
So the important things are to remember, first of all, you got to be really clear about the opt-ins. It's so important. It's so crucial. I don't know offhand of any class action lawsuits for location-based targeting, but I'm sure, I think that's in large part because it's still in its early stages of being used. But for those that violate it, I mean, we've seen the FCC crack down over here on people that have violated SMS opt-ins. So violating location-based opt-ins, I could only guess would be much more severe. right? It's one thing messaging someone without permission. It's another thing to, look up their location, track them all the time without their permission. That is wrong.
You just leave that.
It's wrong and it's bad.
Yeah, you just leave that to the government. They do that. Businesses. Yeah, I'm joking, but you know what I'm saying is that you're absolutely right. Is that the fact that that's where it becomes so creepy when you're walking down the street and the Taco Bell sends you a message and you have no idea how they knew you were there, or you never signed up for anything from Taco Bell, and all of a sudden it's in. And I'm not saying that they do this, but it's in your inbox. And they know where you are, and that's where it gets creepy, and that should never happen. You should never be surprised.
Yeah, so that would be another recommendation. You want to be aware of what your users will think is creepy or stalkers, right?
Yes.
And so you can, when people give you permission to look up their location by SMS, you can, like I said, you can look up their location and get a very, very fine-tuned sense of where they are. Many users probably won't realize that. They probably will think they'll know what neighborhood you're in. You'll know what neighborhood they're in, what area they're in. So don't send them a text message, like, oh, we see you're on the corner of Broadway and West 47th. Come to our store. That's creepy.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
creepy.
In fact, we're sending somebody out there to meet you right now. Just come on out. Well, they did this thing at, tell me, what do you think about this idea? Is that in Schiphol's airport in Amsterdam, they did this thing where when you signed into KLM, when you checked into KLM through Foursquare, something along those lines, you opted in. Okay. What they did, which I thought was actually very, very good, is that you said, listen, I signed in, I checked into the KLM waiting area in Schiphol's airport, and when you did that, somebody would run out basically with a bottle of wine and say, hey, thanks for flying with KLM, and then walk away, just simply because you checked in. You're voluntarily opting in to the location, and they're rewarding you for being in that location. Is that creepy, or is that good customer service?
I don't think that's creepy.
Okay. I don't either.
I don't think that's creepy because, in large part, you just initiated the action, right? So they know you just checked in, and you just publicize that you checked into that location. That's different than I'm just casually walking down the street, and out of nowhere, somebody comes. It's not like I just interacted with the brand. Out of nowhere, the brand sends me a text message like, "Hey, I know where you are right now, out of the blue, and I probably know where you are 24/7." That's where it gets scary. The other aspect I would say, the other piece of advice would be that for some brands, it's really important to target ads on a hyper-local level. For some brands, it can be really powerful, very useful. Some brands are trying to reach, people in apartment buildings, people in doctors' offices, people in schools, people in hotels, etc. Some brands are trying to reach a very specific demographic that would be fine in a tight location, right? Some brands, and I've seen this too, what they'll do is they'll place ads in a competitor's location, right? So then you're hitting the target audience. But for many brands, it's not as important to target their ads on such a fine level. And so to go through the hassle, to go through the extra expense, because like I said, hyperlocal mobile ads are sold at a substantial premium. They'll often be, they can easily be 3-4 times the price. Yeah. So to go through that added expense, the extra hassle, when it's not necessarily as crucial to your brand, it's foolish, right? If you're, let's say, having a concert in a city, right? That doesn't need to be targeted on a hyper-local level. People will drive out, 40 minutes, an hour, to see a concert that they like. Right. So you don't need to target that block by block. So it's important to understand what your brand is trying to accomplish, where your target audience is found, and does locational targeting, does that added element of targeting really help you reach your target audience? Sometimes it can be the make it or break it, right? Yep. And sometimes it really just doesn't matter.
And so that I have one more, and it perfect leads right into this last question that I want to ask you, because it could be a big question, but I have this, and I think most consumers have this conception that when I opt into all of these things, like first, I might opt into. I mean, if you're on the Banana Republic or the Gap mailing list, you know what I'm talking about. It's like you are like every day. It's like an email saying everything's for sale, and it's like that. And I'm getting, email for women's clothes, and I'm a guy in case you didn't know. And it's like, all this information about me. But so for a lot of people, they opt into these things, and then they get frightened because they're going to get hammered, and there's that risk of overloading the user that is just like, enough. 37. How much can they consume, and when does it become not effective? And then how do brands and companies decide when to send and when not to send? And it's like 40 questions in one. I know, but
no,
there's that risk, isn't there?
It's so fun. Oh yeah, I mean, look, it's and that's a really important question, Rob. I'm happy you asked it. Absolutely. There is a big danger with that. And there are a couple things I would recommend. In terms of overloading the user, the very first thing I would recommend is not to send the same content in every channel. So sending me a promotion through email and then through text message, and then on every billboard all over me, and then like sending me a direct mail like postcard about it.
Makes me feel so special, right?
That's annoying.
Yeah, it makes me feel so special. Like, you know me so well that it's broadcast everywhere like that. Yeah.
Right.
And everybody's getting the same one. Yes.
Right. Exactly. It's like, okay, stop repeating yourself. You sound like a broken record. The important thing is to use all your different marketing media channels and to weave it all into a symphony. Don't think about it as different ways to send, to bombard your customers with messages. Think of it as an orchestra, right? Where every piece needs to complement the other. They need to all work together. You don't want to sound like a broken record. If you're sending different pieces of information through different channels and they're valuable, they're interesting, they're engaging, they're not just boring messages, come to our store, that's powerful. Step number 2 is don't make your customers feel like you're after their money. You are. Yeah. But don't make them feel that way. And so the important thing is that not all your messages should be come into our store or here's a coupon. Think of it more as building a relationship. And so some of the messages you send out should just be nice and friendly. Wishing you a happy, healthy new year. If you know their birthday, happy birthday, Rob.
Yes.
Wishing you many more. Think of it more as building a relationship, not just pushing out messages to the people. So that's step number 2. Think of it as more, as like a two-way dialogue almost. Step number 3, in terms of SMS text messages, we usually stick to a pretty clear formula of don't exceed 4 text messages a month. More than that can be cumbersome. Sometimes you'll have a specific use or a specific need, or there'll be a specific event, so you might have to exceed that a little bit. For example, if people signed up for updates about the Super Bowl, it's not a 4 text messages a month equation. It's the Super Bowl is one day, and you're going to send them messages as is appropriate. Right. So when people sign up, usually, you tell them how many messages you're going to send them about, and you stick to that. Don't overdo it. Don't bombard them. Those are the main things I can think of offhand.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Sure. Simply, I always think about it as in context. If I'm Canadian, so we have a hockey bent in Canada. So if you are going to sign up for an SMS from a sports channel or a newspaper about the local hockey team and the scores, you'll expect on game day to get more than on off game days, right? Right. I think it's just great.
Exactly.
And the same thing. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No. You.
Thanks. No, the important thing is just to think about it from the consumer's perspective. Yeah. And that's something that you should keep. That's an element that you got to keep in mind at all times. So that comes into play in the opt-in process, right? if I would be reading this message, would I understand what I'm getting into? Or would I feel like I was just, trapped into this, being opted into this list? Would I feel comfortable giving this brand my location? Would I be okay with getting this many messages? Would I find this content interesting or engaging? The idea is, you want to think about it as if you're in the consumer's shoes.
And it's so, I think this is an evolution, right? And you started talking about this as an orchestra or a symphony, and you've got to establish trust in that consumer. And then once you've established trust and you haven't abused that trust, you can walk them through that process so that maybe a year from now, they've allowed you to know where they are, right? But you never start there. You never close on the first date. Like, you never start with saying, listen, we're going to track your every movement. We're going to know where you are. We're going to send you as many push messages as we can. We're going to take your money and we're going to not care about you. Start with the first natural step, and then I guess move on a continuum to the point where they have implicit trust in you so that you can actually extend the relationship a little bit more in different ways. And I think that to me is, we've now spent 45 minutes together, and I think that to me is what the essence of what you've been saying all along, isn't it?
Yes, that definitely is true. And the one exception I would say to that is brands where the service they're providing you, requires your location. Right. And so that would make sense to you, like the examples I gave. The local movie theaters, the local gas stations,
Weather Channel,
Channel, etc. So those folks can ask for your location straight up, and usually people will be pretty responsive because they understand that.
Wow.
But definitely, mobile is a channel that and I think we started off with this. It's really powerful, but if you abuse it, people will leave not happy. Yeah. They'll leave with a bad taste in their mouth. And that won't just be for your mobile channel. That'll extend to your brand in general. They don't just think of, I had a bad experience with your brand in mobile. They'll just say, I don't like that brand. They wronged me in this sort of sense. Or they were, I had a hard time using their services through mobile. And so it's important to just keep the experience positive, keep things clear, think about it from the user's end, target whenever you can, as is appropriate, and just keep it real.
It's very good advice. And I think that, I've said this many times, that mobile has the power to raise brands. It can build brand new companies. The leaders that are out there today, if they don't do this properly, can become the underdogs, and these new companies can emerge as a result of this, the use of this technology effectively. And so, caution, don't dive in there without knowledge. And I think that is incredible. So where can we send people to get knowledge from you, Shuli? Where can we send them? There are a couple places I would recommend. First of all, on our website at Ping Mobile, we have a couple webinars that we put out from time to time and white papers. People are welcome to go to our site, look those up. Some of the topics are really interesting and definitely have a lot of valuable content for brands. There are some other great websites out there. Mobile Marketer is one of them. They're great. TechCrunch is a great one too. That's also great. Definitely for people in the app industry. And those are the main ones. I think your blog is a fabulous tool. Thank you.
I'm so happy we had this chat today. And the important other thing is the Mobile Marketing Association puts out some great stuff. Definitely, if you're going to start engaging within mobile marketing, you certainly want to review their best practices guide. That's put together by most of the carriers, and that'll be your go-to place for most of the legal, what can I do, what can't I do, how should I do it, how should I say it. So that's certainly a phenomenal tool. It's long, but
it's worth it, though, I suppose.
But look up the sections that are relevant to you. And lastly, just if you're going to start with something in mobile, definitely at the beginning, you got to speak to a professional. somebody who's within mobile, not somebody who's great at marketing but new to the mobile channel.
Yes.
You wanna it's a different channel. It works differently than online marketing or regular marketing. There are different nuances to it. It's important when you start off to just make sure you're doing it right. Like Rob said, it can be powerful, but it can also leave people with a bad taste.
And you don't want to do that.
Exactly.
Shuli, this has been amazing. So head to pingmobile.com if you want some more information about Shuli and the company. She's the marketing director there. And please, reach out if you have any questions. You can reach out to me at robin@untether.tv, and I will make sure that Shuli gets them. And but you can hit her up on the website as well. But please. This is an open dialogue, and I think that this is what we're trying to do, is to bring this kind of conversation, best practices, lessons learned, some perfect examples about how to do things in a way that aren't going to anger your customers, but start on the right foot. It's always easier to do that, to put the effort in at the upfront, than it is to apologize profusely at the downstream. You don't want to be doing that. So, Shuli, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rob. It's been a pleasure.
We have been speaking with Shuli Lowy, for the marketing director at Ping Mobile. Go to pingmobile.com. Thank you so much, Shuli. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time on Untether.tv.
Thank you, Rob.